Oscar Piastri's future at McLaren suddenly doesn't feel as untouchable as it once did. Because right now, one growing rumor inside Formula One is starting to raise a massive question. What if Red Bull are quietly preparing a move for Oscar Piastri while McLaren slowly builds its future around Lando Norris? At first, that idea sounded impossible. Piastri is one of the brightest young talents on the grid. McLaren invested heavily to bring him into the team. They fought aggressively to steal him away from Alpine because they believed he could become a future world champion. And publicly, McLaren still presents Norris and Piastri as equal pillars of the team's future. But the deeper you look into the situation, the more complicated things start to become. Because these rumors are no longer just random speculation online. Former drivers, journalists, and people close to the paddock are openly discussing the possibility that Mark Webber may not be completely satisfied with Oscar Piastri's position inside McLaren. And when Mark Webber's name starts appearing in conversations like this, people pay attention. Webber understands Red Bull better than almost anyone outside the organization. He knows how the team operates internally, how power shifts behind the scenes, and how quickly Formula One teams can naturally lean toward one driver once championship pressure starts building. Then suddenly, another major twist entered the story. Max Verstappen's long-term future at Red Bull began looking uncertain. And the moment that happened, the idea of Oscar Piastri moving to Red Bull stopped sounding unrealistic and started sounding logical. Because if Red Bull were ever to lose Verstappen, they would immediately need a new superstar to build the team around long-term. And Oscar Piastri might be one of the very few drivers capable of filling that role. He's young, calm under pressure, technically intelligent, already proven against elite competition, and mentally strong enough to survive the intensity that comes with driving for Red Bull. But here's the real question nobody inside McLaren wants to answer publicly. Has the team already made its choice between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri behind closed doors? Because if Piastri ever starts believing the answer is yes, this situation could become much bigger than just another paddock rumor. And if you enjoy deep Formula One analysis like this, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment below. Would Oscar Piastri actually be better off at Red Bull? What makes this story so fascinating is that it's not really about contracts. It's about power, positioning, and long-term priority inside McLaren. On paper, Piastri still has every reason to stay. McLaren gave him a competitive car. McLaren gave him race-winning opportunities. And McLaren gave him a genuine path toward fighting for championships. But Formula One history shows that elite drivers rarely leave because of the car alone. They leave when they begin feeling that the team's future no longer fully belongs to them. And that's where Lando Norris becomes the center of this entire story. Over the last few years, McLaren has naturally built its identity around Norris. The marketing, the leadership messaging, the emotional storytelling, and the connection with the fans all gravitate toward Lando as the face of the project. And honestly, that makes sense. Norris stayed loyal during the difficult rebuilding years. He helped bring McLaren back to the front of the grid. He carries enormous commercial value, and internally he has years of trust already built with engineers and senior staff. But from Oscar Piastri's perspective, there's also a hidden danger inside that structure. Because once Formula One teams enter real championship battles, they almost always drift toward one driver internally. Sometimes it happens openly. Sometimes it happens quietly. It happens through strategy calls, upgrade timing, development direction, and small operational decisions that fans barely even notice. Drivers notice those details immediately. And if Mark Webber truly believes McLaren's long-term instincts naturally favor Norris, then suddenly all this pressure behind the scenes starts making complete sense. Not because Piastri is being mistreated. Not because McLaren dislikes him. But because Formula One equality only truly exists until championship pressure forces teams to make a real choice. And the dangerous part for McLaren is this. Oscar Piastri is not trapped. Unlike many young drivers, he already has something extremely rare in modern Formula One: leverage. And Red Bull's uncertainty around Verstappen may have increased that leverage massively. Because if Verstappen genuinely starts considering options outside Red Bull, every major team on the grid immediately begins recalculating its future. And once that happens, the entire driver market becomes unstable. Suddenly, Oscar Piastri is no longer just McLaren's rising star. He becomes one of the most valuable assets in Formula One. And for Red Bull, replacing Verstappen would be almost impossible. But Piastri may be one of the only realistic options capable of carrying that responsibility long-term. And this is where Mark Webber's history with Red Bull becomes impossible to ignore. Webber knows exactly how the team functions internally. He understands the pressure, the politics, and what Red Bull expects from its lead driver. That relationship matters. Especially during moments of uncertainty, when the most important conversations usually happen quietly behind closed doors. Then another detail intensified the rumors even further. Gianpiero Lambiase being linked with McLaren. That immediately triggered speculation across the paddock because Lambiase has been one of Verstappen's closest and most trusted figures throughout Red Bull's dominant era. So the moment his name became connected to McLaren, people inside Formula One instantly started wondering whether bigger driver market conversations might already be happening beneath the surface. Even if there's no direct swap scenario involved, Formula One insiders understand something important. Situations like this are rarely random. One major personnel change creates instability. Instability creates conversations. And conversations create opportunities. And right now, Oscar Piastri sits directly in the middle of one of the most unpredictable driver market situations Formula One has seen in years. What makes this even more dangerous for McLaren is that Piastri is not behaving like a frustrated driver publicly. And sometimes that's exactly when teams should worry the most. He stays calm in interviews, supports the team publicly, and constantly says he's happy at McLaren. On the surface, everything still looks stable. But Formula One veterans understand something very important. The biggest negotiations usually happen while drivers publicly say absolutely nothing. That's one reason why comments from former drivers like Juan Pablo Montoya created so much attention around this story. Not because anyone confirmed a Red Bull move, but because people inside Formula One instantly recognized the pattern. Managers apply pressure indirectly all the time. Rumors circulate, stories slowly appear, and internal leverage quietly increases. Nobody officially declares war. But the pressure becomes real anyway. And Mark Webber is known for being extremely calculated. He understands that Oscar Piastri's value may never be higher than it is right now. Young, fast, composed, technically intelligent, already capable of matching Norris over full race distance. Drivers with that profile are incredibly rare. And for McLaren, the timing couldn't be more complicated. Because championship teams cannot afford internal instability. The moment questions begin growing about driver hierarchy, every result suddenly becomes emotionally charged. Who receives upgrades first? Who gets strategic protection? Who becomes the long-term championship investment? Those questions can slowly poison even the strongest organizations. And if Red Bull seriously enters this conversation, McLaren could suddenly face a situation they never expected. Instead of protecting Oscar Piastri from rival teams, they may need to convince him that his future is still safest where he already is. And maybe that's what makes this entire story so dangerous for McLaren moving forward. Because the moment a driver begins questioning whether another team could offer more trust, more priority, and more long-term belief, the relationship changes forever. Even if nothing publicly appears broken. Right now, McLaren still has the faster project, the stability, and two of the strongest drivers on the grid. But Formula One has always been about more than just speed. It's about timing, power, and belief. And over the next year, McLaren may discover that keeping Oscar Piastri motivated could become just as important as building a championship-winning car itself.